This is Just Say HIE, the official podcast of the Hope for HIE Foundation. I'm Betsy Pilon, your host, bringing the stories of the HIE community from around the world to you, our listeners. Hope for HIE is a nonprofit organization and the largest collective of HIE families anywhere in the world, and each story across all outcomes has its own version of hope to share. Join us as we explore each unique journey and connection. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Just Say Hi or Just Say HIE podcast. I'm really excited to bring together two members of our community that have a really unique story and connection through Hope for HIE, and that's Julie Makow and Margie Jones. Julie and Margie, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi there.
Thank you for having us.
I'd love to start with each of your stories of HIE and your connection and kind of how you found the community and each other. So Julie, why don't you kick us off?
I'd love to. Okay, so I've developed a short story and a long story, so I'll just do the short story. The short story is my son Colton was born 10 years ago in January, and he had obviously a hypoxic event at birth. That's the short story. And because of that, also he had kidney damage as well. So that's kind of where all of our troubles began. And cut to about 3.5 years ago, I was tested and I was a perfect match for donation. So I donated my kidney to him on February 28th of 2018. And here we are, 3.5 years later.
Kidney damage in particular is one that doesn't get as much notoriety, but it is a more common impact from HIE. And so, Margie, I'd love for you to, give your introduction, a little bit about your story, and then we can get to how you both connected.
Sure. I'll try to keep it as short and sweet as you did, Julie. I'm not sure that I'm capable. So I had identical twin girls on February 14th, 2013. And it had been a relatively uneventful identical twin pregnancy, not that there is any such thing. And from the moment that I found out that I was pregnant with twins, I had this terrible sense of foreboding, like just this deep, pervasive dread that would not go away. And toward the end of my pregnancy, there were some issues that I have with the care that I had gotten, like between the MFM and the OB. There were a lot of doctors, and so I wasn't really seeing the same person every time. And the day that I actually went into labor, I had gone to the MFM, and I was so swollen I couldn't get my shoes on, and they were like Ugg style boots. And I had cramps really bad, and the doctor said, "This is just what it feels like to be 8 months pregnant with twins." And they sent me home. And I was in a cat and cow position, like on the table, because the cramps wouldn't stop. And so when I got home, my water broke, and there was meconium in the water. And there's a lot more traumatic stuff, in between that moment and when the girls were born. But when the first girl was born, when she was delivered, she had the cord around her neck, and her APGAR was a 1. It was her meconium. And so they started doing, like resuscitating her immediately. And then the other girl was born, and they kept telling me, "No, she's fine. We just need to help her out a little." And I remember they gave me the second one, Caroline, and they let us take her back to the room with us. And we still had no idea what was happening or what was wrong, because they really downplay it. They say, "She just needs a little help. She just needs a little extra support." And so then we realized that things had gone terribly wrong when a nurse came in and took Caroline. And they said that Katie, the first one, was so sick that they didn't know what was going on, and they needed to take Caroline and start treating her immediately just in case she had whatever Katie had. And shortly after that, they brought us a red folder, and in it was paperwork on the neonatal cooling procedure. And they said, we need you to sign this. They said, we need to take her to a level 4 NICU so we can get her some care that we can't provide here. And so we signed it. And basically, again, they were saying, she's going to be fine. She just needs a little bit of extra help, And so we signed it. And they did take me to the NICU to see her while they were still working on her. And, what I know now and I did not know then are two like vastly different, places. But they were working on her for, I don't know, at least a couple of hours, I think, to try and get her blood pressure up enough to qualify for transport. And I learned about 3 years after they were born what exactly that meant. And anyway, she was transported. And then meanwhile, they got me back to the room, and I had HELLP syndrome, and I hemorrhaged. And, it was really touch and go for both of us for a few days. But then I was released from the hospital and went straight to Children's National, where she was. And she was unrecognizable. She was in kidney failure. And she spent 71 days in the NICU. And she did, she was on the ventilator, she was on the oscillator. She had to start peritoneal dialysis. We were given the choice. We could either give her a G-tube and bring her home, or we could basically institutionalize her, where they could take, kind of care of her in a, facility that we couldn't do at home. And so we chose the G-tube, and we brought her home. And that was, 8 years ago. So we've been just plugging along. She did, like Julie said, like this is what, this is our main connection. She had a major insult to her kidneys. As a result of that, she was released from the NICU with, I want to say like 33% kidney function. And they told us that it was just going to decrease. Like as she got bigger, her kidneys would be able to do less and less to support her body. So when they sent us home, nobody thought that she was going to make it through the first year without needing a transplant. Like nobody thought that she would get big enough to be able to have a transplant before she needed dialysis. And then she made it 2 years, and everybody was like, oh, wow, okay, now we can, she can accommodate an adult kidney. She ended up making it almost 8 years. She was transplanted last August, August 25th of 2020, and a pandemic transplant experience is probably a whole nother episode. But my husband, her father, donated a kidney, and her kidney has been doing everything that a kidney should do ever since then. And so it's been really incredible.
I mean, you both, HIE is one thing, and the trauma of going through all of that and everyone's stories always take my breath away with the depth of what everyone has been through to get to where we are today. And I want to thank you both for sharing those stories.
Well, real quick, I thank you so much, Margie, for sharing that story and those details, because I think what happens with me, and it has always happened with me in my whole life, is I forget details, and I don't have those details. And that's why I shortened my story, because it's too painful.
Yeah.
But I will say that we kind of had the same scenario as we were in the NICU for 62 days at Texas Children's after he was transferred the second day of life, but he was not cooled. He did not meet the criteria. And I didn't even know what cooling was. I had never heard of it. Had I may have requested it or demanded it. I don't know. And who knows what difference that would have made. But so we were there at Texas Children's for 62 days. And same thing, we had to have a G-tube before we came home. Colton did not have any of his inborn reflexes. He didn't suck swallow. none of the startle reflexes, any of the reflexes. He didn't have any of those, and they never really thought he would. So they suggested, or the G-tube. And I'll never forget the meeting we had with all of the doctors and the neurologist, and everyone, our whole family was there, and it was recorded. And I've never had the courage to listen to it, but it was the worst. I don't even know how long, 20 minutes of my life, because it was that moment where they were saying, okay, these are the decisions that you have to make, and you have to make them now. And I didn't even know. And I had no clue of what I was supposed to do, or, and before Colton was born, like, I thought my life was hard. I thought I had hard decisions. I thought, I had been in hard places. This is life and death. Yeah, and they basically said at that point, you take him home, basically, and until he dies. And it was, the worst of the worst. And I remember we came home that day and left him at the NICU, and my husband and I were bawling and crying, and I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? And, my husband was so strong, and he said, we just love him. Oh. And that's what we do. And that's what we did. And he definitely struggles every day, and has some major intellectual deficits and developmental deficits and all of those things. But he is the strongest little boy, but he just sticks his arm out there like, okay, let's get this over with, and so I can go get my French fries. As long as I bribe him with French fries, we're good. But if Chick-fil-A is closed, we're in big trouble. But anyway, so yeah, he's a miracle every day. So
it's funny you say that you don't remember, because when I looked at the outline for this call, I was trying to think, like, what is my HIE story? And I was actually telling some friends, there is so much that I just don't think about, just intentionally do not think about.
Right.
But then even more than that, there are so many details that, like, depression and PTSD have completely wiped away. And part of that is, like, it's protective. Your
Absolutely.
brain protects you, because you just cannot live with that kind of pain constantly.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we picked up a death certificate at the same time that we got a birth certificate for Katie. So yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah, it's excruciating.
Yeah.
So.
For, I think, anyone on the outside, it is unimaginable to go through what we've all been through in this community, and just the complete lowest of lows, and then those moments of eventually turning corners and inchstone. I mean, you talk about inchstones a lot, obviously, in the community, and I mean, especially in those early days, you're looking for any sort of glimmer of hope and of progress forward, and it is so heavy. And I want to thank you both for sharing that excruciatingly difficult those details, and digging back. And it's a protective reflex, and it's amazing, the human body and the human brain. We're talking about brains, we're talking about babies' brains, but truly, our brains are wired to be protective and to help us through, to find what's on the other side of that. I want to, again, thank you both for sharing those stories, and kind of transition to, you both ended up getting discharged home, and both kind of had very similar kind of expectations of, taking your kids home potentially to live a very short time. And, we know that has not been the case. So talk to me a little bit about that first year, trying to connect with other people, and, maybe when you first found Hope for HIE.
I was trying to remember, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a brochure in the milk bank where, of course I had just had a baby. And so Mother Nature doesn't know, and you're still full of milk and you have to go pump it for this baby who's in the NICU, which was a whole other experience. But I think in there was a brochure, and I want to say it was Hand to Hold or something. And it was about, I don't even remember. I don't even know why I know that detail, but it had something. And I think that's the first time I ever saw the words hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. I'd never heard it before. And so I think I, at that moment, Googled it, and it must have led me to the Facebook page, which to me was very reassuring and scary at the same time, because I'm like, am I a part of this world? Is this going to be me? And it was, but I will tell you that from the very beginning, it has saved my life, the community and the connection. And even though I, don't necessarily comment every day or it's 10 years later, but I'll tell you what, in those first few months, maybe even the year, I would be up at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning and just watching and looking and seeing, is somebody like me? What are they doing? How are they handling what? And that connection to know that you're not alone was instrumental in my sanity, for sure.
Absolutely. I had a similar experience in that we had just moved to Northern Virginia when I was pregnant. And so I didn't have a support system locally. I mean, everybody that I knew and loved was so way, states away. When we did get home, the only connection that I had was really online. There were there was one Facebook group in particular that was just, a huge lifeline to me. And I think that was like my introduction to Facebook groups. And the best I can remember is that I searched HIE on Facebook, and I somehow found the Hope for HIE group. And I did know that HIE was, what we were dealing with. But, it was really overwhelming, because at that stage, you have no idea what's in store. And not knowing, to me, is always the hardest part, because I can deal with what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I can make plans, I can manage that. But just not knowing, it was torture. I mean, I would say that probably easily the first 2 years, it was a living nightmare. It literally felt like torture all day, every day, and it never ended. I was extremely angry. I'm still a little angry, but time has worn those edges down. But when I did find the Hope for HIE group, looking through the group and seeing different posts, there's such a wide array of outcomes and experiences. And on the one hand, it was really comforting, and at the same time, it was completely terrifying. Again, it was that living in limbo. And, I believe you asked if there were some some ways that it started to get easier over that first little bit of time. So for me, there were parts that started to get easier. I had 2 of them at the same time. And so there were moments like the first time that Katie realized that Caroline was there. They were nursing, and it was almost like she woke up and she was like, oh, hey, there's this, like, oh, it's you. And then there was when we completely abandoned tube feeds during the day, and I was like,
I remember that.
Because, yeah, I mean, she was going to nurse, and that was it. That was it. That was like the first sign that we had that she is such a stubborn, determined little pistol. And so, I guess slowly in some ways, like we just sort of figured out what our normal was going to be. It was nothing like anybody else's normal, but we adjusted, and we found joy in what, was truly indescribably terrible times.
So I'd love to hear how you both connected.
I can probably start this.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so I saw Julie in the group, and I was like, "Hey, will you talk to me? Because you have some idea of what I'm like. You're the first person that I've ever seen who has any idea what it's like to have a baby with kidney disease."
Yep.
And so I did. I pretty much stalked her, and and I actually found the first comment I think that I made to you. I looked that up tonight. It was September of 2013.
Wow.
And you had posted a picture of Colton, and I mean, he's absolutely beautiful,
Thank you.
And from the moment that I saw him, he reminds me of Katie in this intangible way. It's in the smile. They don't really look alike, but there's just this essence that is, it's in both of them. And, and I was like, hey, my daughter's 7 months old, and she's going through this too. And maybe we could talk about it sometime. And Julie was very kind and very patient. And she helped me. And it was little connections like that really, made you feel like you weren't the only person in the universe.
Right. Absolutely. And I feel like it helped me in a sense that I felt like I was helping someone else. Like, that made me feel like, okay, well, maybe I do know what I'm doing, or maybe I can make this horrible thing better in some way for someone else, and I do remember those early days and talking with you and talking about feeding and meds and, the prospect of transplant and how scary that was and all of those things that come along with it.
Yeah. And similarly, I guess Katie was maybe a year or so old. I met a new member in Hope for HIE, and her son had a very similar injury to Colton's and to Katie's. And, she and I were messaging each other in the middle of the night, and I had sort of stepped into your shoes at that point, Julie, because we had survived it for long enough that I could, kind of walk with her for a little while. And her son had a transplant before Katie did. And, so then she was able to turn around and kind of help me through that part. So, it's
a nice little circle.
Yeah. And there's so few of us in the world that to be able to find each other is truly a gift.
Absolutely.
That is just incredible. I mean, there's so many amazing stories of connection, and hearing yours and seeing and witnessing your connection in this online space, which kind of feels almost voyeuristic sometimes. But, I see, because you can see, when people are supporting each other and things like that, but it is such a, I think what you both just articulated is spot on of the, the culture of what we try of any support community in that situation is why it works is people reaching forward and backward and linking arms to help each other through these really, really difficult times. And it's amazing to hear both of you talk about doing that for one another and for other people as well. So let's talk through, how you kind of got through into this transplant journey, because both of you are now on the other side of that. And I remember, both of you sharing this experience, and would love to have you share it here in this space as well.
I remember when they said that Colton would need a transplant, and I remember thinking, it's going to be me. It better be me, because of all the things I wanted to be as a mother, you want to be able to fix something. And I said, I'm gonna at least be first in line. And I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, please let it be me, let it be me. And so we were able to, with diet and medication, avoid dialysis. And luckily for us, his nephrologist was the same nephrologist he had at day 2 of life at Texas Children's. So she's been there from day 1. She knows Colton. And in fact, she and I actually didn't start off on the greatest of feet because she didn't think that he was worthy of a transplant, and because of his brain injury. So, and I remember going to all of these appointments, and she would I could see her judging him, looking at him, making sure, like she would hold him up and be like, oh, he's still kind of floppy, or, not always. She made me so angry because I thought, who are you to tell me if my child needs this transplant? And one day when we were inpatient, she came in and she looked at me with tears in her eyes, and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, I was wrong. I was wrong. And you know what? I'm going to do everything I can. He is mine as much as he is yours. And he is going to get his transplant. And so from that day forward, she has fought for him and I have fought for him. And she finally turned around and was, and now she calls Colton her baby. Like, she's like, he is my baby and I will do, And so anyway, long story short, we turned that corner, and at the age of, he was 7, I tested. I was the first one tested, and I was a match. And so shortly after that, we went to transplant, which was another very traumatic, but yet beautiful, glorious, miraculous experience. My husband was a trooper. He, of course, his wife was in one hospital and his baby was in another, and having to figure out how do you split that time and who are you with? And but it was kind of funny because we have 6 kids all together. Colton's our last little baby. And we had t-shirts made, and the waiting rooms, this was obviously pre-COVID, but the waiting room was full of t-shirts that said team, what did it say? Team Happy Bean or something. And it had 2 little kidneys on it. We had a team of people there with us. And I will say it went as smoothly as it possibly could. We had a little hiccup that morning because he had a slight little cough, and we were all worried, and they had to run a kind of panel on him to make sure. And thank God it was literally down to the last moment. And they were like, okay, we're go. So it happened, and it was so surreal. I could not believe when we were on the other side of it. I was like, this has been something I had been thinking and dreaming and planning for 7 years, every single day, every night, praying about it. And it happened. And that you wake up and you're like, whoa, I just did that. It's done. Now what? And he was kind of complicated because of some other things, but he ended up being in the hospital for, I think, 30 days. And I was wheeled over to him I think on day 2. And, I was cut from hip to hip, and ended up on the really very comfortable, not beds at the Children's Hospital. But I wouldn't have been anywhere else at that time. And so he has made some huge strides since transplant. And one of them is he is 100% eating by mouth food, no formula. It's a true miracle. Like, I thought, his doctors always said, well, after transplant, our kids tend to eat. And I was thinking, yeah, but you don't know Colton. He's not. He's just not going to do it. But he did, and we figured it out. And what else? He also is 100% potty trained, which happened at the age of 9. And his communication has gotten better. And
He's a healthy, crazy boy. And I can't even believe it's been over 3 years. Like, it's just unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the term resilient gets annoyingly thrown around a lot, but it is truly a term that, I mean, anyone else, I think, just, we see this every day of people overcoming and doing these, wild things that, and living these lives that no one asked for to have this happen. But see day after day, one foot in front of the other, to just continue forward the best for our kids and families. That's amazing. So Margie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and walk us through a little bit of your journey with transplant, and go from there.
Sure. So we actually started getting the transplant workup when Katie was about 2, maybe 18 months at Georgetown. Because remember, nobody thought that she was going to make it, another 5 minutes before she needed a transplant. And I wanted to be ready because I think I mentioned before, I can handle what I know. I have a plan. So, let's do it. This is what we need. This is what we're going to do. So we knew then that I was not a match, but my husband was. And so, there was, like you're saying, Julie, like there's no doubt. I mean, I would have given her both my kidneys right then, exactly. Let's do it now.
Right.
But, so we knew for years that this was the plan, and, or that this was coming. And, the stress and just constant tension of living with that over your head, like, it's going to happen. But you don't know when it's going to be. And so every meal, every day, worrying, like, how much potassium has she had today? How much phosphorus has she had today? You can't have that snack. You have to have this snack. And so, because she did start eating orally at about 2 years old. We took her to Hopkins, and we did some feeding therapy. Well, I'm going to say some feeding therapy. Like, our lives were feeding therapy for well over a year. And that's extraordinarily stressful too. We could do a whole nother episode on that. But it's this constant eating. It's just this devouring stress, because you can't just relax. And I don't think anybody who hasn't dealt with feeding issues and medical issues can even imagine how hard it is to have to worry about every single bite that goes in that child's mouth. Because you eat every day. You eat multiple times a day. And I mean, these are things where if she gets too much potassium, like, that can cause heart problems. You end up in the PICU. Like, this isn't just
a picky eater.
Right. No, this is, like, the stakes are the highest that they could possibly be. It feels like every single decision every day is a matter of life and death. And so we finally got to the point where they decided she was ready for transplant. We also did a preemptive transplant, which was another part of the stress, because every time we would go to the nephrologist, I was like, are you sure she's not ready? Like, are you sure she's going to make it for another month? Because I don't want you to come back to me and tell me, oh, she needs dialysis.
Right.
And so we finally got to the point where she was ready. And then there was a global pandemic. And she was supposed to get transplanted in July. And the nephrologist, I don't remember if she called me first or if she told us at an appointment, but she said, we're going to push it back because the numbers are just too high right now. We have to push it back. And I did not respond gracefully to that, because I mean, it's just, again, it's just terrifying. The stakes cannot be higher. So we finally did get to the point where it was transplant. And, like you said, Julie, I mean, I had a husband in this hospital, and then right next door, in the hospital next door. And then I was with Katie, and no one could be with me because of COVID. So, again, thank God for the internet and smartphones, because that was the only connection that I had to other people through this, 5-6 hour surgery. So when she was done with her surgery, they took me back to the ICU, and we had met with the surgeons and the social worker and all these people, and they go through checklists to try and prepare you as much as possible for what's about to happen. And there is absolutely no way on earth that anyone can be prepared for what is about to happen. So I walked into the ICU, and I was not expecting the level of pain that she was in. And so, again, and I mean, we all have PTSD. So, you see your child in this situation in the hospital bed, and there's, central lines and all this stuff. So, I mean, it's all just,
it's a lot.
Oh God. And, I always think she's going to die, just because she's almost died so many times. And, but the nurses were wonderful. We knew that we had good doctors. The surgery went perfectly. And within, I don't even know. It was that same night, her creatinine was down to 0.8, and it had never been that low in her entire life. As soon as she got out of surgery, the kidney was making urine. I mean, it was unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Unbelievable.
When they told me, they came in and told me his creatinine was 0.3, I cried.
Yeah.
People don't understand what that number was. That number is something that just you dread those labs, and every time you're like, oh gosh, it keeps getting higher and higher and higher.
Yep.
By the way, just for your tidbit information, Colton's creatinine in the NICU when he was born was 10 point something.
What?
But never, he never, that's what I don't know how, and he never had to do dialysis, but I think they weren't really wanting to do dialysis.
Oh, because they were thinking palliatively.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, in the
but
NICU,
that 0.3 or whatever it was I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah. Can I redraw the labs just to double check, please?
Yeah,
please. I'm sure.
You don't have to worry, because the nephrologist is, I mean, they're like they're on top of it. But and they would give me regular reports. And I actually, because, I'm like that, I actually went in and did a little, created a little graph on my phone. And so I was tracking them by the hour.
I love it.
And I posted those, on Facebook, oh my God. And, maybe 4 people in the world understand what that really means. But, it was incredible. And so she got through transplant. She was in the ICU for, I don't know, I think 5 days, maybe longer. And she had some non-kidney related complications, just surgical complications. She got an ileus, which is apparently an intestinal gas blockage that's extremely painful. And so there were 2 or 3 occasions where we had to be rushed down to X-ray or CT, and again, the PTSD is falling out all over the place. But we eventually got her home, and I have a picture of her in the back seat of the van on the way home, and she's never looked like that in her entire life. I mean, she looks like she's healthy. She's pink. Her hair looks great. She's pink, and she just looks like the 18-year-old version of herself, just in that moment. And it's like you can literally look at her and see the future and the life ahead of her. And so we did bring her home during COVID, and she was neutropenic during COVID. So, the point of transplant is to live. And so we are looking very forward to being able to, like, I don't know, re-enter the world when it's safe for her to do so, because she also has lung disease. And so, you know, she checks like 4 of the 5 super duper high risk boxes, according to the CDC. So, you know, we're very fortunate that my husband's been able to work from home and that I did not have to quit my job to homeschool my kids, because we can't send any of them out in public right now. But we are expecting 1 more year of homeschool. She, again, is she's more fragile because of the lung situation. And so the nephrologist she was extremely relieved. She breathed an audible sigh of relief when I said, I think we're going to homeschool him for another year. She was like, oh, thank goodness. I think that's absolutely right. I think that's the best possible idea. You know, she said, just let her get a little bit stronger. And so hopefully, you know, we'll be able to use this time to, you know, kind of catch up on some stuff that she wasn't really, you know, when you have kidney disease, like end-stage kidney disease, you don't feel good. And it's really hard to learn to read and do math when you don't feel good. Yeah, like really, really, really don't feel good. And so, you know, we're focusing on those kind of things right now and getting her stronger and getting her vaccinated as soon as we possibly can. And then we are really looking forward to going out and doing some fun stuff. And she eats all the cheese that she wants to. She eats cheese, she eats yogurt, she eats bananas. She has peanut butter and banana sandwiches, you know, and that's the biggest relief ever. Just being like, you know, like, yeah, sure, you can eat that. Go ahead. You know, like, we don't have to eat lunch precisely at this time of day so that you can take your phosphorus binder and all these other medications, you know, and no, sure, you can have a snack. Go ahead. What do you want? Anything. Just go get some of those. So it's I can't describe like what an enormous weight it is off of my shoulders just to not have to police that one thing alone. So
incredible. Yeah. I do want to talk about a little bit about another plot twist that I know Margie went through, and Julie, you have a role to play in that, amidst what seems like an unbelievable pile of garbagely hard, difficult stuff. You had your own personal health plot twist and got diagnosed with cancer and went through a whole intensive treatment time. And I know that part of that took you near where Julie is. So I'd really like, I know you wanted to share a little bit about how that connection, you know, even forged in that way as well.
Yeah. So we decided when the girls were 3 that we were going to have another baby. On purpose.
That too. I forgot about the baby.
Yeah. And he, you know, he's wonderful. His name is Charlie. He just turned 4. But so when he was, I want to say 8 months old, we found a lump, and you know, I thought it was a plugged up because I was breastfeeding, but then it didn't hurt, and so I was like, well, then I thought I was getting bigger. So anyway, I went to the doctor, and it turned out to be like stage 3 triple negative breast cancer, which is a particularly nasty beast. And you know, here I am with a baby and 2 young children, one of whom needs a kidney transplant. And you know, there's like it was like I may very well not survive this. And so we decided to go down to MD Anderson in Houston for because they're the best, you know, the best cancer treatment center in the United States. And so we went down there to see what they'd recommend. And so they ended up like driving the course of treatment. I received treatment at home in Virginia for chemo and stuff. I mean, and I got the whole the whole 9 yards. I got the chemo, the surgery, and the radiation. And so we went back and forth, during the whole process. And I ended up being down there. I went back for radiation after surgery was over, and I was there for 6 weeks. And while I was there, well, Julie lives in Houston, and she was like, we should get together. And so she came, and several times she came and picked me up, bald headed, and, and
we had
with
tacos.
With one boob, yeah. And we went out for tacos, and we went to Sephora, and,
That's right.
and it was just, it was wonderful. And, it's just sitting down and like eating tacos with Julie. I mean, I felt like I knew her, it was one of those times where like sometimes you sit down with people and it's just comfortable right away. And it was like that. And I really, really appreciate her again, being there to hold my hand.
I was happy to do it.
Nice. Yeah.
You're a rock star, by the way. Like, even with bald, you are beautiful. You were unbelievable.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's funny you should say that, because I think we all hear a lot. This is kind of one of my soapbox issues. I know that you know that I'm awesome because we've actually like hung out together.
Right.
But I think we all hear. It's. So I think people mean well when they say this, but I think we always hear like, you're amazing.
You're so strong.
You're so strong. I could never do what you do. And so I'm of two minds about this. One is that people do mean well, and they don't know what to say. It's extremely awkward. And they want you to feel better. But on the other hand, I get really frustrated because I am absolutely no different than anybody else. Julie, you are no different than anybody else. Betsy, neither. Like, none of us ended up in this position because we're uniquely qualified.
Exactly.
And so one element of that, I believe, that people are not aware of at all is it's like whistling past the graveyard. Because by saying, oh, I'm not strong enough, I could never handle that. Like, oh, it can't happen to me because I couldn't do it. And the fact is, every single one of us is just doing the best that we can every single day with what we have to work with.
Because
and
what other options do you have?
Right. And it's what everybody would do in this situation. Now, not everybody's version of the best is not the same. I mean, we all know that. There's totally different, circumstances and capabilities and, but every single one of us and everybody basically in the world is doing the best they can at any given moment. And I guess if there's like any requests that I would make, it's that, just stop saying you're amazing, you're awesome. Like, oh, you're, stop with the so strong, like acknowledge.
You're absolutely right. Because what are you supposed to say to that?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. Or I
Thanks.
know, or thanks, or no, I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. There's no right that I tend to say, well, I appreciate that, but really this could be you.
Right.
It's
Coin
not
flip.
me.
It's literally a coin flip,
It's just, it just happened. This could happen to anyone, but it happened to happen to us. And, I think nobody understands what this is like. Like, you cannot imagine it until you literally live it. I mean, we have family who still have no idea what it's like what it's really like. But I think that there are ways to be empathetic, that can be more meaningful. Like, even just saying, wow, like, this is a really heavy thing to carry, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with it. Like, can I bring you supper? And always lead with, can I bring you a meal?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wow. I am just so, I said at the beginning, but so grateful for both of you to take the time to share your stories in this space. And And I know that why we share stories is it's a form of helping others, and it's a form of holding space for other people in this community, and those that will be joining it. And I just am so grateful to have been able to witness these connections that you have built over the past several years with each other and in the community. And so I want to take this time to give each of you kind of any closing thoughts or advice that you'd like to, your biggest takeaways, I guess, that you'd like to pass along, if there are any. No pressure either way.
Well, I hate the old saying, take one day at a time, but sometimes that's all you can do. In fact, a lot of times I just take 1 minute at a time, and I'm still that way. We still have lots of things that we have to deal with every day. I could go on, but I won't. But, if you just take 1 minute at a time, one breath at a time, you can really get to the next one. And I would always highly encourage people to surround yourself with people who understand you and who support you, even if it's online, because, that's where I have found some of my deepest connections, even though I've not met many of them in person. I have met Margie, which I'm so thankful for. But to have that connection where you don't have to explain yourself is, I can't even describe how important that is. Thank you for having me and talking to us. I was nervous, but I'm so thankful that you reached out, and I'm happy to share our experience. I feel like I'm an old timer since Colton's he's 10 and a half. He's an old timer now. We were around when Hope for HIE had a couple of hundred members, and now I love to see the outreach and how far and wide it has become. And I look at those numbers and I think, wow, on one hand, it's kind of sad that many people are going through something so hard. But on the other hand, to know that all of those people are connected now, in a way that will be helpful. It will, who knows what little connection will happen, like Margie and I. And I feel like one day Katie and Colton will meet, and they will love each other, and they will have that connection, and they will look into each other's eyes, and that thing that she was describing, it'll still be there. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
So I've been thinking about this, and I'm not capable of making anything short, so I apologize. You're gonna have to cut out a lot of what I say. But there was a new mom in the group. I guess it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's been so long. I really only see the group in my newsfeed mostly, and that's just every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And this woman's pain I felt it. I know I've been there. And she was raw, and she said something about, like, those of you who have, whose kids are a little bit older or something, like, do you ever have, right. She asked, like, do you ever experience any moments of true happiness? Mm-hmm. And I took the time, to respond, because I felt like this was really important. And I told her, like, yes, absolutely. There are moments of true happiness. There's lots of true happiness. There's lots of, true normalcy, but what there is not is blissful ignorance. Mm-hmm. It's a little dark, but for years now, I've said that, like, the girl I was, or the woman I was, because I was 33, died in childbirth. She never left that hospital. Mm-hmm. And there are wounds that will never heal. Those are the emotional ones. But like I said at the beginning, time really does wear those edges down. Therapy helps. Medication can help. Like whatever you need to take care of like your psyche. I mean, the trauma of this is, I mean, there's not much worse. It's top tier trauma. And I guess the biggest thing I have to pass on to parents who are just starting this journey is that it does get easier. It's never easy, but the sharp edges do wear down. And you become one hell of an advocate.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes. We could do a whole nother podcast on that too.
Yes. I know.
So, yeah.
So many topics. So many. Yeah. Well, thank you again to both of you for coming together and sharing this with our community. It is such a gift, and again, just so grateful and so glad to be connected to both of you. And I know that this is going to make a measurable impact on our community. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hope for HIE's official podcast, Just Say HIE. If you have a story you'd like to share, be sure to keep in touch. Learn more about the work we do and sign up for our newsletter on our website at hopeforhie.org/justsayhie. We look forward to connecting with you soon, and thanks for listening.